Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another out and about video for you. So today I'm in Dublin, the Irish capital, visiting my cousin and his girlfriend Michelle, who you'll no doubt see in the video at some point. But we are in almost the centre of the city. So this place that we are is somewhere between O'Connell Street, which is, this way, and Temple Bar, which is over there, and the Docklands are kind of behind here. So we're somewhere in the middle there. But we're going to have a little look at Urban Brewing, which you can see behind me, and they've also got their Stacky Restaurant, which is in the basement. But yeah, we'll do as we always do. We'll go in, we'll have a little look at the menus, we'll try some of the beers, and yeah, we'll just have a nice time as we always do. But I hope that you guys enjoy this one. Very cool to be filming here in Ireland for the first time. And yeah, let's crack on then. See you guys in just a second. Alright guys, so as you can see, there's your entrance to Urban Brewing and the Stacky Restaurant. They've got this lovely terrace out the front, but if you just look around, you can see they've got one of the international finance buildings over here, and this bit that's in front of me is a dried out part of an old canal, an old dock or something like that. So over here you have Stack B, and this building is Stack A. So they all have these kind of names around here, and they were used for different purposes. But yeah, that's the international finance building over there, and this has all been kind of converted into a shopping centre these days. But yeah, it's a lovely place, and as you can see here in early August, middle of August I think we are now maybe, we've got beautiful, beautiful weather. But that is the outside of Urban Brewing. So we'll take a little walk in and I'll let you see what the kind of ground floor of this place looks like. But you can see they've got this lovely terrace there. You come in, this is the main bar. We'll have a little look at the tap list a little bit later on, which is just over there. But yeah, this is pretty cool. You've got all of this out here. It's obviously a little bit bustling. You can see everyone's kind of sitting along there. And here you can see my asshole cousin, Jobby Balls, as we know, and his lovely girlfriend Michelle. She's there. So we've been tasting some beers already. You'll see these tastings a little bit later on. But are you happy, Ryan? Do you like everything?
No, I hate life.
You hate life. That's it. But yeah, this was beer tasting number 2. You'll see this one a little bit later on. Alright guys, here's a little quick look at the tap list here at Urban Brewing. So for their own beers, they have the Tropical Pale, which is a New England Pale Ale, the Vienna Lager, 5.3% ABV, that's one I'm definitely interested in. The Weiss beer, a New Zealand IPA, then an India Pale Lager, the Raspberry Sour, then they've got a few guest taps and things as well. But of course, we are interested in their own stuff, but that's a little quick look at the house taps here at Urban Brewing in Dublin. Let's get on with the tastings. Alright guys, well, time for our first beer tasting then here at Urban Brewing in Dublin. So yeah, there was one beer on the menu that I really couldn't resist when I saw it. So this one is called Vienna Lager. It comes in at 5.6% ABV, and yeah, love Vienna Lager, so ideal place to start. So when this beer came, it had about a half finger of a frothy, I would have said almost perfect white head, very, very slightly cream in colour. Compared to some of the Vienna Lagers I've had in the past, this one is a little bit more sort of yellowy. Most of these beers tend to be a little bit amber and darker, so remember, when it comes to the colour of your beer, it really depends on the colour of the type of malt and things that you use. So yeah, this one's definitely one of the lighter Vienna Lagers that I've come across. It's almost a little bit more along the lines of a German Märzen or a Czech Letzak in terms of its colour. But as you can see, this one is crystal clear. You can just see there's a bit of condensation on the glass. There's a steady flow of carbonation going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it looks pretty nice. As I say, just a little bit more like a Czech Letzak or German Märzen or something like that. But yeah, looks good. Looks good, I have to say. So let's have a wee look at the aroma and see what we get from this one. So yeah, straight away, I'm going to say this beer, it doesn't smell that obviously like a Vienna Lager to me. It's you know, you would expect the Vienna Lagers to be a little bit more kind of caramelly and brown bready and stuff. this one's actually, it really has a little bit more like a Märzen or something like that for sure. So backbone of the beer, you get a little bit of fresh bread crust, absolutely, a lot of white bread in there. There is a wee bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, and I'm getting some elements of, you know, I'm getting some elements of like Jacob's cream cracker, this type of thing. So yeah, normally you would expect a wee bit more of a brown bready and caramelly note out of this one, but in fairness, the more that you smell of this beer, the more it kind of sweetens up actually. So yeah, it is quite interesting. Maybe this is going to be one of these ones that is actually, it smells a little bit different to how it tastes, and it also looks a little bit different compared to some of the other examples of the style. Sometimes you come across beers like that, so we'll see what it's like in the flavour profile. But in terms of the hops, it's pretty much as you would expect. There's a little bit of a very slight earthiness, you've got a little touch of floral character in there, but for me the green component really leans toward a nice kind of wet, grassy character. And Austrian hops are like that. I'm not sure whether they will use authentic Austrian hops in this, or whether they'll use, you know, some Slovenian hops from the Savinja Valley or some German Hallertau or Tettnanger. I'm not sure. Maybe some Czech Sats, it could be something like that. But yeah, nice wet grassy note. In terms of the fruitiness, you're getting a little bit of an apricot-y character out of this one, a wee bit of that sultana note, and then you're getting some kind of, in fairness, you are actually getting some of these slightly, very, very slightly red fruits. You're getting a little hint of the fruity character that you would expect of the Vienna Lager. You're just getting that little bit of kind of like datey note or something like that gives you that wee hint of red fruit. But it's a nice smelling beer, this one. The more that I smell of it, the more I start to get of what I would expect from a Vienna Lager. As I say, definitely one of the lighter coloured examples of this style that I've come across. But let's get stuck into this one then. My first beer here at Urban Brewing, Stacky Restaurant in Dublin. Slàinte. That's interesting. I'm going to say straight away, it's a really nice lager beer. I'm glad I picked this one to start because there was an IPL on the menu as well that I was tempted by, but to start off with something quite light and drinkable like this is good. So that's the first impression of it. It's got a little bit of sweetness and things in there, it's got a nice bit of breadiness, but it is still really light and drinkable. But it also has quite a bit of bready dryness, which is something you would expect from the Vienna Lager. So I will say that it's a lot closer in the flavour profile to the Vienna Lager style than I was expecting it would be from the colour and the aroma. So we'll say that.
That was brilliant. I seen it on Twitter and looked at the comments.
So yeah, let's break this down for you then. So backbone of the beer, you've got a little bit of that bread crusty sort of thing, that blankets the middle of your tongue. And on top of that you've got some fresh white bread. But what I will say, from the middle third of your palate, when you go toward the back third of your palate, you start to get a more brown bready characteristic out of it. And one thing I had recently when I tried some Vienna area brewed Viennese lagers, because I've got a guy over there who supplies me with the Austrian beers. What you really discover with them is that they have this kind of dry, bread crusty, brown bready sort of thing, and you really get that in this beer on the back third of the palate. So that's actually, for me, this is a very nicely done Vienna Lager. I'm just surprised at how light it is in colour, but you know, different kinds of malts and things like this. They might be using some Irish malts in there, which is what gives it the lighter colour, who knows. But yeah, the malty backbone of this is nice. So like I say, a bit of bread crust, some white bread in the middle third of your palate, but it gets more brown bready and grainy toward the back of your tongue. There are one or two little crackery elements in there. When you come further forward on the palate, there's a little touch of woodiness. But yeah, in that middle third of your palate, there's definitely a wee bit of sweetness. In the dead centre of your palate, there's a wee bit of a caramelly sweetness for sure. And as you move further out from that, it's a little bit more biscuity. Yeah, this is nice. Just really, really easy drinking. This beer, I have to say, I do like how it goes together. Absolutely. Yeah, very, very good. So, malty side of this one is a winner for me. It gets a big thumbs up on that. So to see this as the most drinkable beer on the menu, this was a nice surprise and it's worked out quite well. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, the earthiness spreads forward a wee bit, it's a little touch herbal, then you get some nice floral aromaticity, and round the front curve of the palate, it's just a little bit lighter and grassy. Typical kind of like Central European noble hop characteristics. It's very nice. Front third of your palate there, and the fruity side of the beer. yeah, it's kind of what you would expect from it as well. So at the base of that front third of your palate, a little bit bready. On top of that, toward the back, you get these kind of dry apricot-y notes. You get a little bit more of a sultana note, and as you come further forward, you get a little touch of a kind of more datey, slightly red fruity sort of thing out of this one. So what I will say is, overall, the flavour profile of this one, it comes across to me as being a little bit more yeasty and bready and white bready than some of the Vienna lagers that I've had before. But I like it. I do quite like this one for sure. And there is something a wee bit different about it, so I suspect maybe there's a house yeast or an Irish malt or something like that in this. But it's good, I like it. In terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, for me, it's at the top end, the light-bodied, the carbonation is quite smooth, it's got that nice clean mouthfeel to it, but it is a little bit oily at the same time. In terms of IBUs, I think this one's probably about 20 IBUs, which is standard for the style. The malt base has a wee bit of the dryness and grayness, which you get into the aftertaste, but it's also got the sweetness you want from this style as well, and you've got that nice little bit of fruitiness. But overall, that's a good first impression of urban brewing here in Dublin. That's the Vienna Lager, 5.6% ABV. I've enjoyed this one. Let's see what else we can do in a little bit. Catch you in a second. Alright guys, so there's a couple of different menus here at Urban Brewing, so we'll have a little look at the lunch menu first. So yeah, as you can see, they've got a nice little selection of salads there, Asian egg noodles, soy cured sea trout and beetroot and peach salad. Yeah, €13, €17. You know, Dublin is a little bit pricey, we will say that. Dublin is a little bit expensive. But yeah, a few different sandwiches here for lunchtime as well. Halloumi sandwich, steak sandwich, corned beef, all kind of classic. Fish and chips, pan-fried fillet of hake. Yeah, €20. So yeah, in Dublin you will pay maybe, you know, 16, 17 euros for a good meal. But yeah, they've got beef burgers and chicken burgers, a few different sides there, a few different desserts as well. Some selected cheeses, cake of the week, raspberry and vanilla. I'm not sure what a bavarois is, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, probably not. But yeah, coffee and tea. So yeah, that's a little quick look at the Urban Brewing lunch menu for you. But let's go on to our second beer then. Let's do this. Alright guys, well, time for beer tasting number 2 then here at Urban Brewing. So yeah, the next one that we're going to go for is a style that is also a little bit close to my heart, and this was another thing that was very cool to find on the menu. So this beer is called New Zealand IPA. It comes in at 6% ABV, and as you can tell immediately from the appearance, this one is a New Zealand IPA. So yeah, this should be pretty interesting. So when this beer poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream coloured head. Yeah, you can see colour-wise, this one is a lovely kind of mixed tropical fruit juice colour. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on the type of malt that you use, the length of your wort boil, any adjuncts that you put in, or any barrel aging that you do. But when it comes to New England IPAs, yeah, it really is about the kind of type of malt that you use. The level of haze on this one is pretty impressive. Remember, New England IPAs use wheat and oat in the malt base, and those two things along with the yeast determine the level of haziness that you get in the beer. But as you can see, this one is pretty damn opaque. If I put my fingers behind it, you're getting no transparency to this beer at all. But you know, in some ways, that's what you want from a New England IPA. I'm very curious to see whether this one is more oaty leaning, more wheat leaning, more farmhousey or whatever. But yeah, this should be quite interesting. Appearance wise, from a New England IPA, it's everything you would want. But yeah, it's a New England style, New Zealand hopped IPA, I guess we could say. So yeah, it certainly looks the part. The hops in this one, incidentally, are Nelson Sauvin, one of the most famous New Zealand hops. There's a whole variety of different things down there these days, but yeah, this should be pretty awesome. So yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma of this one and see what we've got. I'm going to say straight away, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, this one, it's kind of everything I would want from a New England IPA. Straight away, you get that lovely big creamy note out of it. You've got the Nelson Sauvin in there. This is one of these beers that just, I think, is going to hit the spot for me. So yeah, on the malty side of things, there's a little bit of that fresh white bread crust, lots of white bread. But I would say that when it comes to the New England IPAs, there are a few different ways your beer can lean. You can have one that's more yeasty and farmhousey. It can be a little bit more kind of oaty and creamy, wheaty and bitey, barley malt leaning and bready, a little bit sweet. You know, some of them can be a little bit rye leaning as well. But for me, this one is very oat leaning. You can definitely smell the wheat thickening it out as well. It's got a little bit of bitiness to it. But yeah, for the most part, this one is quite yeasty, but also quite oaty leaning. You get a lot of creaminess out of this one. So like I say, fresh white bread crust, white bread, a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker in there, lots of oaty creaminess, but there is definitely some golden promise malt in this. You can smell that little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit as well. Yeah, aroma wise, this is pretty awesome from the malty side of things. Not surprising for when you think about the style, but it gives you everything you'd want, and you can't knock a beer when it does that. Yeah. On the hoppy side of things, there's a little tiny touch of earthiness in there, but for me the green component of this one leans more towards the grassy side of things. You have to remember Nelson Sauvin is a big 16% alpha acid hop. It is capable of giving you big bitterness if you use it as an early addition bittering hop, but New England IPAs rely on late addition and dry hopping, which are not going to give you all the much in the way of bitterness. So the green component of this one for me is a little bit floral, a little bit grassy. It's awesome. On the fruity side of things, it shows you everything you would want from Nelson Sauvin, you know, big white green grapey notes, gooseberry, yeah, that's it. There is a little bit of a kind of tropical note underpinning this one, like a little bit of papaya, apricot, maybe mango, something like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee bit of like, you know, rakau or Kohatu, something like that in here. I'm pretty sure there are a few other New Zealand hops in this one other than just Nelson Sauvin, because it is giving you a little bit of a tropical note underneath. So maybe it did say on the menu that this was dry hopped with Nelson Sauvin. It didn't say anything about the early edition hops and the late edition hops. So I think there is something else in here other than just Nelson Sauvin. But it smells beautiful, this one. I'm very, very curious to see how it tastes. Let's do this. So yeah, this is the New Zealand IPA, 6% ABV, a New Zealand hopped New England IPA. Slanja. That's pretty damn nice, I have to say. Again, it gives you everything that you would want from the style. It's got that lovely and I will say straight away, it has got a good balance. The aroma gives you the impression that this one is going to be a very oaty leaning New England IPA, and it gives you that, but at the same time at the back of the palate you've certainly got that nice wheaty bitiness out of it as well. But that's a very well balanced New England IPA for me. That's a solid beer, that, and again gives you everything you want from the style. Let's break this down. So backbone of the beer, you know, fresh white bread crust again. It actually gives you a bit of dryness into the aftertaste, but you can feel the barley malt on top of that giving you like a fresh, fluffy, you know, hedgehog roll type bread. On top of that, you can feel the wheat sort of thickening it out a little bit, and in the middle of the palate, there's absolutely a big oaty, creamy note out of this one. Down the middle line of your tongue, you get a little bit of a biscuity note out of it. I'm pretty sure there's some. I'm pretty certain there's a little bit of golden promise in this, because you have that little bit of. You definitely have that little bit of biscuitness too. That's the espresso machine going crazy, if you wonder what that is. But yeah. Malty side of things is really nice on this. When you go further back on the palate, into the back third of the tongue, that's when you start to see some of the wheaty side of the beer. On the back third of the palate, there is quite a little bit of that wheaty, bitey character coming out of the beer, and that really gives the beer a little bit of a kind of refreshing quality. I think that's really nice. Other than that, the only other thing I'm getting out of this beer going into the aftertaste is a little bit of a Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. That comes out a wee bit later on. On the hoppy side of the beer, back corners of the palate, absolutely you've got a little bit of that earthiness to it. As you come further forward, it's a little touch herbal. As you reach the front corners of the palate, you get that nice, big, slightly spicy, floral aromatic note out of it. As I said earlier, Nelson Sauvin is a 16% alpha acid hop. It's one of the highest alpha acid hops out there on the market. Alpha acid hops determine how bitter the beer is going to be. Beta acids are the one that determine how long the alpha acids are going to be active for, basically. But yeah, a little bit of floral character there. Around the front curve of the tongue, you do have a wee bit of grassy zestiness. But yeah, I think that's all we need to say about the green component on this one. Front third of the palate and the fruity side of things then. The base of it is definitely white bready. Yeah. So if you go to the back of that front third of your palate, there's definitely a wee bit of a sharp kind of passion fruity note there. There's some apricot and mango underneath, but then on top of that, you start to get the more oily characteristics of the Nelson Sauvin. You get that gooseberry. As you come further forward, you get the gooseberry, the white green grape, and it just dries out the further into the aftertaste that you go. And there is just a little touch of like lime to this one on the very tip of the tongue. That could be a little bit of Motueka or something like that. This is a really, really nice New England IPA, and it's very, very well balanced. It's a good example of the style. I'm happy with that. I like how this goes together. Yeah. And it's, you know, I love New Zealand hops, so this was always going to hit the spot for me, but I'm just happy that it's so well done. The two beers that we've had so far, the Vienna Lager and the New England IPA, have been very, very well done. So, gets a thumbs up from me again. Yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel, I'll say it's actually quite thick. For me, the thickness you get out of this is almost akin to like a double New England IPA. The carbonation is very smooth, it's got a nice creaminess to it, but at the same time, in Ireland and Scotland, you always get very clean water, and you can feel that in this beer. It does have a certain cleanliness to it. IBU-wise, it's I think this is maybe slightly more bitter. I think this might be 35 or 40 IBUs. It's usually 30 for these beers. But you know, Nelson Sauvin is quite a powerful hop that way, so it could just be that. The malt base is nice and smooth. There's a slight degree of sweetness, and you've got that little oily fruitiness to it. But that's what you want from Nelson Sauvin. It gives you everything you want this beer. So that's a big thumbs up for me. So yeah, that's the end of tasting number 2. This is the New Zealand IPA. A 6% New Zealand hops, New England style IPA from Urban Brewing here in Dublin. Catch you guys in a second with another tasting. Cheers. Alright guys, so we've got a few more menus to have a little look at now. So we're going to have a look first off at the dinner menu for the Stacky Restaurant. So remember, the Stacky Restaurant is just down the stairs from the terrace and tap room that we're sat at just now. So yeah, for starters, they've got soup of the day, the soy cured trout. That sounds quite interesting, but you know, I can't eat fish. It makes me feel absolutely terrible. The wild game terrine, salt baked celeriac. I'm really not sure exactly what that is, but it's a vegan option, so it will be some kind of vegetarian vegan dish, obviously. For the mains, they've got pan dried fillet of halibut, the dew of Irish beef, that caught my eye, the andarl farm pork neck fillet. Then the maple glazed butternut squash. For sides, honey glazed organic carrots, crispy spiced aloo potatoes, sautéed tender stream broccoli, sautéed green beans. Too Scottish for those, I think. More used to the, you know, obviously more used to something a little bit more meaty. But for the desserts, raspberry and vanilla bavarois, espresso mousseline, that sounds quite interesting, goat milk gouda. But yeah, you can get 2 courses for €45, 3 courses for 55. So yeah, the euro and the dollar are about roughly the same these days. So yeah, 2 courses for $45, 3 courses for 55. So yeah, take off about 10%, and then you have the price in pounds. So about two courses for about, you know, £40, something like that. But as we say, Dublin is a little bit pricey. Over here you've got the different things with the tapas menu. But yeah, there you go. So black olive and marinated tomato, endive salad, pan-fried padron peppers, selection of cured meats, sounds quite interesting, charred peach, O'Hara's IPA brined chicken, some beef sliders, the little burgers of course, Jane Russell sausage, crispy artichoke, curry spiced cauliflower. That sounds quite interesting as well, I have to say. Beer battered halloumi, I love halloumi. Potatoes smoked with smoked aioli, smoked almonds, marinated olives, and a few different desserts there. These are the same that were on the other menu as well. But yeah, the tapas, I have to say the tapas is a little touch pricey, but again, I've not seen the size of the dishes. But yeah, it is a good selection of food here. But like I say, Dublin is a little bit pricey, and we are quite close to the financial district where people have very good wages. But yeah, that is the dinner menu and the tapas menu from the Stacky Restaurant that they have downstairs. So there you are. Alright guys, time for tasting number 3 then. So we're going to have a look at a style that is one that I wish I could review more of on the channel, but you just don't find them all that often, and if memory serves me correctly, this might well be the first Irish brewed example of this style that I've tried, so curious to see what this is going to have in store for us. So yeah, this beer is simply called Hefeweizen. It comes in at 5% ABV, and from the name I think you know what style this one is. So when it poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. You can see colour is beautiful, lovely kind of bright yellow mango juice colour. If we put my fingers behind the glass, you can see there is a degree of transparency to the beer, but it is pretty damn opaque. This is what you would expect from a Hefeweizen, Weiss beer, wheat ale, whatever you want to call it. Not much in the way of visible carbonation, 1 or 2 big bubbles at the bottom of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But yeah, it looks nice. Appearance wise, I don't think there's anything else we need to say about it, so we'll have a little look at the aroma and see what we have. So yeah, aroma wise, this one is pretty much what you would expect from the style. I mean, the Hefeweizen is a very yeast-forward style. It's this one's really interesting. I mean, from memory, this one comes across as quite kind of candied and quite kind of sweet. So you've got this little base layer of like bubble gum. You do have the kind of banana candy notes to it. You've got a little bit of clovey spice. You've definitely got that sort of bread crusty, white bready, wheaty sort of thing too. There's a little bit of sweetness in the malt base there. This one is actually very, very sweet aroma-wise compared to some of the other examples of the style that I've had. But yeah, a lot of bubblegum, a lot of banana, but then yeah, you've got that typical big, thick, doughy, white bready note, the clovey spice, the big yeasty characteristics, a little bit of cracker underneath. It smells very, very nice from the malty side of things, as I've said. So yeah, hoppy side of things for me. Little touch of earthiness to it. Remember, this is not a very well hopped beer style, generally speaking. So there's a little touch of earthiness, there's a wee bit of herbal character, very little floral note. It's actually quite wet and grassy, but the grassy side of things is a little bit zesty as well. Yeah, but you can smell the difference in this style between the fruits that come from the Hefeweizen yeast and also the ones that come from the hop. So you can smell that sort of dry banana apricot-y thing from the yeast, but on top of that you get that more oily, peary and slightly grassy, lemony note out of the beer too. But definitely some kind of sultana, you know, dried white green grapey notes coming out of the beer. As I said, sultanas, pear, apricot, these slightly more oily things. So the more dried fruit I think is coming from the yeast, but the slightly more oily and wet fruit is coming from the hoppy additions to the beer. But aroma wise, this gives you everything again that you would expect from the Hefeweizen style, but it's, you know, it's one of the sweeter examples of the style that I've had, I would say. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else we need to say about the aroma. This one, let's have a taste and see how we get on. So yeah, this one is the Hefeweizen Weiss beer. I forget the exact name of this beer now, but it has a very straightforward name. But it's 5% ABV, and this is one of the tap beers here at Urban Brewing. Slàinte, Skull.
Chinese 24.
Oh yeah. I'm going to say straight away, this beer is lovely and smooth and creamy. Now, as I've explained on the channel a few times, when it comes to the Hefeweizen style, before I moved to Germany back in 2014, I think it was, I loved Hefeweizens, but when I went there and got used to the Helles and Dunkels and stuff like this, I actually found them very, very heavy. These days, because of the New England IPAs, which have a really high oat and wheat content, I actually find Hefeweizens quite easily going. So it's a style that I think I really would like to get back into, if that makes sense. But what I would say about this is it's a lovely, smooth, creamy, and really quite light Hefeweizen. I think this is very, very nice. So again, this gets a thumbs up from me. The other thing I would say about it as a first impression is it doesn't do anything surprising when you consider the style bracket, but it's just very well done. So again, thumbs up to Urban Brewing for this. But let's break it down and describe it a wee bit more in depth for you. Yeah, very nice beer. I should point out as well, this is a half pint glass because we've got one of their fruity Hefeweizen, fruity sour Hefeweizen beers to have a little look at as well. But yeah, this is very nice. Middle of your palate, fresh white bread crust, that goes right across the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you can feel the big, thick wheat, you know, that thick but still fresh and fluffy white bready note coming out from the wheat. It's a very, very smooth and very creamy beer, this one actually. To be honest with you, I probably should have had this before we had the New England IPA. But in the middle of your palate there is a little hint of like a McVitie's digestive biscuit. I am getting a little bit of that, but the further back on the palate you go, you're starting to get a wee bit more of the kind of clovey, spicy sort of thing. As you come further forward in that middle and back third of your palate, you're getting more of the kind of bubblegummy note out of this one, and a little bit of the kind of sweet banana. It's a very straightforward beer, this one. It's very straight shooting, but like I said, it gives you everything you want from the Hefeweizen as a style. I think that's very, very nice for sure. Yeah, malty-wise it gives you everything you want. I would also say this is quite a yeasty leaning Hefeweizen, but again, my perception of this style has changed over the years because of the emergence of the New England IPAs. But again, very, very nice beer. I like this. Let's look at the hoppy side of things. Back corners of the palate, you definitely get a wee bit of earthiness. As you come further forward, it's a little touch herbal. You know, you get a little tiny bit of floral aromaticity out of this one as you reach the front corners of the palate, but around the front curve of the tongue, definitely lighter and grassy for sure. And it's quite a wet grassiness that you get out of this one. On the fruity side of the beer, at the front of the palate, soft white bread underneath. Then you get a little bit of a sultana type note. Yeah, sultana, you know, dried white green grapes, little tiny touch of apricot, a little bit of a peary sort of thing. It's all these kind of notes that you're getting off of this one, but then you get more of the kind of bubblegummy, candied banana type notes coming out of this beer as well. So yeah, fruity side of things with this one is very, very nice. Big thumbs up from me. Quite true to the German style, but the thing that distinguishes it, of course, is the mouthfeel. So let's focus on that now. Mouthfeel wise, this beer, bottom end to mid-bodied for me, maybe right in the middle of the spectrum. Very smooth, very clean. Low IBU, you know, it's fit. I think this is about a standard 10, 15 IBUs. That's normal for the Hefeweizen style. But yeah, malt base is lovely and smooth. A little touch of sweetness to it as well. You get just a little bit of hoppiness. There's a little bit of zestiness to the beer, and you've got lovely, juicy and slightly oily fruits coming out of this. But that's a very nice example of a Hefeweizen, and it is quite true to the German style. You can't ask for anything more than that. So what we're seeing from Urban Brewing is that their beers are very true to the style, and they're kind of sticking to that style, if you like, and giving you what you want. And you can't knock a beer for that. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Hefeweizen, 5% ABV, our third beer tasting here at Urban Brewing. So we're going to do one more. We'll catch you with that in just a second. So see you soon. Alright guys, so as I mentioned earlier, downstairs they have the Stacky Restaurant. So this is where we came in earlier. But let's just have a little walk through the restaurant and see. It's not open yet, of course. I think it opens at about 4 o'clock or so we're not far away from opening at this time. But yeah, the guys in the bar told me I was welcome to go down and just have a little walk through and show you what it's like. So when you come down, you'll see all these nice wine and beer bottles greeting you. But look at this place. This is awesome. I have to say, you just walk through, you've got this lovely restaurant here, all these little chambers that you can eat in. You've got the bar here, which is very cool. You've got a few fermentation tanks as well, and this is obviously their cold room where they keep the kegs of beer and so on. But yeah, I have to say, this is a lovely venue. You can see a few more fermentation tanks in there as well. So they've obviously got pipes running through the building where you know, where the beer's coming down from the brew kit upstairs. But I have to say, this is pretty awesome. It's a very, very pretty restaurant, I have to say. Yeah, I don't know if we'll get something to eat here or what we'll do, but here you can see they've got their barrel room as well. So you've got a little, this is obviously a little bit of a venue, some barrels and things here. But yeah, this is a lovely restaurant, I have to say. But that's let you guys see what they have down the stairs here at Urban Brewing in Dublin. We're right in the middle of the restaurant downstairs now. Beautiful venue, actually. One of the most unusual that I've come across in my time doing these videos. So yeah, that's your bar downstairs. We'll head back up the stairs now and do a few more beer tastings. Yeah, just a little look at the beer wall here. This is pretty awesome. So yeah, let's get back upstairs and have a few more beers. Alright guys, well, time for beer tasting number 4 then here at Urban Brewing, and unfortunately this is going to be our final tasting. So what I normally like to do in these videos is do a lager, something New England, something West Coast, something sour, and then round off with something dark. But unfortunately they don't have anything of their own on tap that is dark here. So we're just going to round off with something sour in that case then. But this one should hopefully be very, very nice. So the beer that we're going to have a little look at this time is called Raspberry Parade. It comes in at 6.5% ABV and it is a raspberry sour. I suspect from the appearance of this beer that it is going to be some kind of Berliner Weisse or Gose, but we'll talk a little bit about that when we actually have a taste of it. But in the meantime, I have to say it does look very, very nice. So when the beer poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream coloured head, but obviously it did have a little bit of pink tinge to it. But yeah, you can see this beer does have a good little bit of opacity. That makes me think that there is a little bit of a kind of oat or wheat component to the malt base in this one. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. Overall, it does look pretty nice. As I've said to you before, the colour of your beer depends on the type of malt that you use, the length of your water boil, any barrel aging that you do, and also any adjuncts that you put in. So the colour of this beer, of course, is pretty much down to the presence of the raspberries. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But lovely kind of candy apple red colour to this one. I think that's a fair descriptor of this beer. And you can see when I put my fingers behind it, the appearance of this one is pretty nice. So yeah, let's have a little look at the aroma and see how we get on. I think there's nothing really surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. So let's look at the aroma. I'm going to say straight away, that smells very, very nice. It's very well balanced in its aroma. You've got that lovely sort of Berliner Weisse backbone, and I'm going to say I reckon this beer is going to be sort of Berliner Weisse-like, or it might be a modern kind of Nordic sour. We'll need to see. But the backbone of the beer is lovely and bready, but you have the big, juicy, fruity sour characteristics of this one from the raspberries. Of course, you can smell that sort of bramble raspberry note out of it too. So yeah, backbone to the beer then. It's most definitely quite, you get a little bit of a fresh white bread crust. You've got white bread on top of that. You can definitely smell a little bit of the smooth, sweet, wheaty character coming out of this one too. Yeah, I think this one is going to be a Berliner Weisse, to be honest with you, when we actually taste it. But yeah, bread crust, soft white bread, you get a little bit of creaminess out of it as well. There's maybe a teeny little hint of biscuit in there, but I have to say the malt base on this one is very straightforward. It doesn't come across as being overly hot, this beer, but we'll talk about that later. So yeah, when it comes to the green side of things, there's a little hint of earthiness to it, a little bit of herbal character, some nice wet grassiness, a little touch of floral note as well, but yeah, I think this is pretty nice, I have to say. On the fruity side of things, sharp raspberries, they're quite juicy at the same time, but you do still get that little bit of woody, herbally note out of it, which I really like. So yeah, aroma wise this is very nice. Definitely, I think this is a raspberry Berliner Weisse, raspberry Nordic sour. It's kind of like that, to be honest with you. I don't think there's anything else we need to say about the aroma of this one, but let's get stuck in. So 6.5%, the Raspberry Parade, our final beer here at Urban Brewing in Dublin. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, I think that's pretty nice. I'm going to say straight away, it has this really nice sourness that it leaves in the aftertaste. You really get this has real raspberries in it. It's not like raspberry flavour essence. I'm pretty sure it's raspberry puree that's in it. You do just get that little bit of bramble quality out of it, which I think is very, very nice. You get a little bit of that woodiness that you would expect from real raspberries. So again, thumbs up to Urban Brewing for this. This is a solid beer. Like we've said, like we've experienced with Urban Brewing, their beers stick to the styles and give you everything you would expect from the given style. They don't do anything surprising, and I think you can't really knock beers that do that, and this is another one that really kind of fits into that box, if that makes sense. So yeah. So for me, this one is quite well balanced. We'll start off with the malt base as we always do. So a little bit of fresh bread crust. You've got that lovely white bready note to it as well. That lingers into the aftertaste. In the middle of your palate, you do get a little touch of like a biscuity note. So yeah, bread, and if we're talking about the malty middle third and back third of your palate, bread crust, fresh white bread. It's quite a wet white bread that you get out of this one too. You've got the wheat sitting on top of it, thickening it all out, and as I say, in the middle of your palate you get just that little touch of biscuity sweetness too. On the back third of your palate, you do have a little bit of kind of more yeasty note to this one, so you get a slightly fluffier white bread. There's a little touch of a grainy note coming out of it as well, and again, I quite like how that goes together. As I've said to you in many reviews on the channel before, for me, sour beers like this can be very straight shooting, but if they're done well, they come out very nicely, and that's what I'm getting with this one as well, I have to say. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this beer again. I'm just surprised how much sourness I'm getting out of it in the aftertaste, which is good. But on the hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, it's got a little bit of earthiness. As you come further forward, it's a little bit herbal. As you reach the front corners of the palate, it's got a little bit of floral character, and round the front curve of the tongue, it's got a wee bit of grassiness to it. But as you always get in these beers, when you add fruit into the beer as an adjunct, it's always going to suppress a little bit of the green component of the beer, and you're definitely getting that from the raspberries in this one. So on that note, let's go to the fruity side of the beer. Yeah. So on the front third of your palate, you can feel the base of that beer is, the base of the beer is quite soft and bready. But then on top of that, you have a little bit of a kind of candied strawberry note. You've got some blackcurrant, you've got a little bit of fig, but then you get the big juicy raspberries coming in. And of course, when you take the beer in, it has that bit of impact to it. It has that little bit of sharpness. So when you take the beer in, it has that little bit of sharpness. It smoothens out quite nicely, and then as you come further forward to the very tip of the tongue, you start to get a wee bit of blackberry, blackcurranty sort of thing. and yeah, I like how that all goes together. So yeah, as I say, you feel the darker raspberries just pushing around the edge of your tongue there, and I think it goes together really, really nicely in that sense. It's a, you know, as a modern sour, I think it's quite nice. It doesn't strike me as being particularly Berliner Weisse or particularly Goza in style, but if I really had to pick, I think this one is more of a Berliner Weisse rather than anything else. But I like it, and that is the main thing. Do you enjoy the beer, yes or no? For me, yes. So again, this is another thumbs up for Urban Brewing. Yeah, another very solid beer. Let's round off with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel then. So for me, bottom end and mid-bodied, smooth carbonation, again very wet and very clean in its mouthfeel. The malt base is really light in this one. Maybe if it was a Berliner Weisse, you might expect it to be a little bit thicker, in fairness, or a Nordic sour, you would of course expect it to be very thick. Nordic sour, smoothie sour, you do expect those to be quite thick. IBU wise, I think technically speaking this would be a 0 IBU beer, but you're obviously going to get a few, so maybe about 5 IBU, something like that. You've got lovely big juicy fruity notes to it, the big sourness too, and then that comes out more and more into the aftertaste. I like this one. This has been a really nice way to kind of round off. So yeah, this is the end of our fourth and final beer tasting then here at Urban Brewing in Dublin. The Raspberry Parade, a 6.5% raspberry sour. So yeah, we're going to sign off there. I'll give you my final thoughts on the brewery in a minute, and yeah, catch you guys in a second. Cheers. So yeah guys, not sure how well you can see it, but up there is the Brew Kit, and it very much looks like it's a kind of 1,000 litre brewing system, maybe 1,500 litres at the most, but this is where they brew pretty much all of the Urban Brewing beers. But yeah, pretty cool. Alright guys, well that is our time over then here at Urban Brewing here in Dublin, and I have to say we had a very nice afternoon. So we got to try 4 different beers. We tried the Vienna Lager, we tried the New Zealand New England IPA, we tried the Weiss beer, and we also tried the Raspberry Sour beer, and they were all very nice, very true to the style. The only complaint I would have about the beers is that they didn't have something dark like a Nitro Stout or an Imperial Stout on tap. That would be my only thing. But the quality of the beers that we did try, I thought was very, very high. All very true to the style, didn't really throw up any surprises, but you know, really, really solid beers, and you can't knock beers that do that. But yeah, I would have liked to have stayed a little bit longer and tried some of the food, but we do have plans for the evening, so we couldn't really do that. But it was very cool to come and check out Urban Brewing. The Stacky Restaurant in the basement looks awesome. They've got a very good food menu there, but as I said, it's Dublin, it's a little bit pricey. That's just kind of how it goes. So for 4 pints and a little bit of food, I think each of us paid about 30 euros. So that's about 30 US dollars, 300 Swedish kroner, maybe about 27 British pounds, something like that. So yeah, that gives you a rough idea of the prices here in Dublin. But yeah, really enjoyed my time here at Urban Brewing in Dublin, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to come back, but hopefully next time they will have something dark on the tap menu. But yeah, this was our little visit to Urban Brewing, Stacky in the Docklands area, well, a little bit further away from the Docklands area, I guess we could say, in Dublin, but I really enjoyed my time here. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my first out and about video here in Dublin, and we will see you soon with a couple more. Catch you guys in the next one. Check out my social media, check out Urban Brewing social media, and I'll catch you guys very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.